Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending at what part of the day you're watching this episode of Data Driven Formula One. My name is Patrick Hens, and I have the pleasure to welcome you to today's episode. As you see me here alone, without Ganapo Grefner, you know it's one of the episodes where we dig a little bit deeper into a smaller topic maybe on the left or right from the general Formula One seasons, big teams, big names. Well, you may say a small topic today, maybe even a nerd topic. Nevertheless, it's a story full of adventure. It includes Italy, Germany, Argentina. It includes a potential unraced car, 12-cylinder, rear engine, mid-engine, four-wheels drive, something which really would have revolutionized early Formula One. But today we will have a look why this never happened and why it would have been a great parallel timeline if you like the Marvel Universe, for example. Anyway, today's topic, the Cisitalia 360 GP Revolution by Porsche Unraced. If you're just listening to this as an audio podcast, I want to encourage you to look for the video version hosted on YouTube, YouTube Music, and Spotify, because as always, we show you here some photos underlying what I'm telling you today. And if you do so, you see here already an original photo of the Cisitalia 360 GP. A lot of photos, thanks to the Museo Cisitalia. Unfortunately, only a virtual museum, but if you go there on their website, and you find the link also in the description, it's really a place where you get a lot of more information like photos, letters, contracts. So it's really a great resource if you want to dig even more into the topic of Cisitalia. So thanks a lot to them. This photo is interesting. Please have a look on the Cisitalia logo in front of the car. Why? I will come back to this. Cisitalia was founded by Piero D'Osio, quite a sportive person. He was born in Scorsolengo Asti in Piedmont on October 13 in the year 1899. He played midfield for Juventus Turin, football or soccer as you would call it in the US. But unfortunately, due to a knee injury, his career ended quite early, and so he switched to his second um, favorite sport, motorsports. From 1929 to 1938, he participated at the very famous Mille Miglia. The best result had been the class victory in the year 1938, which he achieved driving a Siata 500cc. In 1936, he founded the Scuderia Torino and participated at the 36th Italian Grand Prix with a Maserati 6C34, and here he achieved the sixth position. So you see, we are speaking still about pre-Formula One times. If you see the photo on the left is another famous Italian driver, Piero Taruffi, and in the middle we see Piero Giussi, the person who founded Cisitalia and the one about whom we speak quite a lot in today's episode. Let's jump to 1944. He founded Cisitalia, which stands for Consorzio Industriale Sportiva Italia, so Italian Sport Consortium. And as one of the first tasks, he needed a race car, of course. And to have his own car, he commissioned Fiat to develop such a car where he could participate in the then famous Voiturette class, similar to today's Formula 2. The project was led from Fiat side by Dante Giacosa, famous name because he was the mastermind behind the Fiat Topolino, the original Fiat 500. So not the car which we know from its design still on today's streets, but the earlier version, the called Topolino or Little Mouse. Those who participated with the result which Fiat developed, the Cisitalia D46 at the 1946 Turin Grand Prix. This was the first race organized under Formula One regulations. But as we also saw later, still in the 1950s, even though the race was organized under Formula One regulations, also other cars had been allowed to participate. If not, there wouldn't have been enough cars on the track for the spectators. So he participated there with the D46 car, not directly designed for Formula One, but the Voyager class. The car dominated in that year, this 46 Voyager class. One of its drivers had been the famous Tassio Novellari, which you see also on the right on the photo. If you're interested in Novellari, we did a special episode, a double feature, where we spoke about Gilles Villeneuve and Tasso Novellari, two drivers from complete different times, but somehow perfectly aligning. For this, as we thought it was great to have them one in one episode. And if you're curious, check it out. Then in 1952, Piero Dossi participated with a D46 at the Italian Grand Prix, but unfortunately failed to qualify. You have to also to consider not only that this was a Formula 2 car, but also Cisitalia always had been a very small team, so difficult to maintain the car, keep it running, and this stayed unfortunately a problem all the time for Cisitalia. Due to the success of the D46, Biodieuci commissioned Ferdinand Porsche, who just left French prison after World War II, to develop a race car. And for this, Porsche got the target to do this in just 16 months. So Porsche developed it from 1946 to 47. And for this, Cisitalia paid Porsche upfront. As part of the contract, Cisitalia employed the former Porsche engineer Robert Eberhard von Eberhorst, and he had been the mastermind behind the very successful Auto Union Type D, and also had been involved in later prototypes which never realized due to World War II, but at least existed on papers. Other famous names included to Cisitalia at that time had been Carlo Abbas, known of course from the Abbas company, and also the other Austrian engineer Rudolf Ruschka. They worked from Austria side. At that time, the border between Austria and Italy have been quite difficult to pass. Please consider we are speaking here not about people moving from one side of the border and others, but also the import-export. We still not had the European Union. So that's why the car was designed by the people working from Austria, but then the engineers at the Turin base of Cisitalia had the target based on the papers design the car, what surprisingly well worked. Based on the 36 GP had been earlier Porsche designs for an unraced flat 12 Auto Union car, as already mentioned. And the later car, as you see it, it featured a 1.5 liter flat 12-cylinder engine and four-wheel drive. A four-wheel drive we saw, I think, in one or two occasions in Formula One later, for example, in the 50s or 60s, it sometimes was existed various times the idea. Sometimes it was tested inside a race, but it never really worked out. Even in theory, it's a quite interesting concept. Unfortunately, I don't have the rights to show you, but if you search a little bit in the internet, you will see photos with Tasio Nuvolari posing inside the 360 GP. These had been photos of the car for marketing to attract entrepreneurs who would to finance Cisitalia. He never raised it, and also there is one photo colorized later in yellow and blue, uh, aligned with the Argentinian race colors. And this was an originally black and white photo, but was later colorized again for marketing purpose. We can as strongly assume that Nuvolari, when he posed, it was before the car shipped to Buenos Aires, and it was really never painted in these colors. To compare a little bit what I just mentioned is, please see the photos on top, the Cisitalia 360 GP. A lot of the photos you see today are taken from the Museo Cisitalia. Unfortunately, only a virtual museum, but if you're even more interested in the company and its models, history, they have a lot of great resources, not only photos, but also letters, certifications. So really great resources here, and thanks a lot to them that I'm allowed to show you these images today. On button, this is of course not a Cisitalia, but the Auto Union Type G, as we know it from 1938, so around 10 years before the Cisitalia. So you see really quite similar concept. Already in 1930s, we had a rear engine car, which we saw in Formula One only in the late 50s, forgetting that we already had a Cooper in the 1950 Monaco race with a rear engine, but this was also a Voiturette car, not a Formula One car. So here, if Cisitalia would have introduced this car as they planned to, it would really have been much ahead of its time, and maybe it would have accelerated technical development. Who knows? A lot of Cisitalia's history is related to Argentina. In 1948, the Argentinian driver Clément Bucchi was sent by the Argentinian government to Europe with the task to establish contacts with factories and teams to invite them to move to Argentina. As we already discussed in some of our other data-driven episodes, the Argentinian government in the 40s, led by President Perón, understood motorsport as a way to show the progress of the country. For this, we had an executive decree, the 18,996 of the Argentinian National Executive Power, dated from August 10, 1949. The automotive industry here mentioned was declared of vital importance for national economic development. The regulation authorized the company Autoar to freely import machinery, equipment, and materials intended for the establishment of an industrial plant in the country of the production of tractors and automobiles. And leader of Autoar, founding member also, has been nobody else than Piero Duccio. So let's just go back from the document to our history. Bucchi could convince Duccio as the development of the 360 GP made Cisitalia to run out of cash. Again, we're speaking about a very small team, and the financial resources had been limited. And unfortunately, as Duccio paid Porsche upfront, he was really lacking of cash right at the moment. So the offer to go to Argentina and help to build up an automotive industry there was very tempting. Buki saw the Porsche designed car and identified as ideal to be used for a potential Escuderia Argentina. So Buki understood that Duccio had the interest, the experience, and also he was already quite interested in getting the 360 GP, still an unraced car, to Argentina, and then it could be, of course, politically presented as an Argentinian car, in opposite to the earlier Argentinian racing teams, where they used the known Italian cars, mostly Maserati. If they would have the 360C successfully working, it was unraced in Europe, so from marketing side, easy to sell as an Argentinian car, especially if the later development would have been in Argentina. Then 1948, finally, Duccio moved to Argentina and established their Automotores Argentina SAIC, the mentioned company Autoa, a company financially supported by the government and including the president Juan Perón. In 1950, then also the 360 GP had been shipped to Argentina, while Duccio's son Carlo restructured Cisitalia and led the company until 1964 in Italy. So we had at that time, because in 51, Piero started Cisitalia Argentina, we had practically two Cisitalias. Cisitalia, the originally headquartered in Turin, Italy, and the new one headquartered Buenos Aires, Argentina. To be more specific, headquarter had been in the street Caracas 650, 658, which still exists today, but of course, you cannot see the headquarters anymore. The company's plant had been in the industrial zone of Quilmes, also in Buenos Aires. Maybe you know Quilmes as a name because it's the most famous Argentinian beer, and you can find it if you're a little bit lucky also in your country. In 1950, Auto started with the production of a sedan. Design came from Aldo Provarone, who did the Dino 205 GT. Very beautiful car. Also a very beautiful car, the Peugeot 504, but this had been a little bit a car. Well, of course, this have been a car which you could buy yourself. Well, uh, if you have maybe if you're part of the mid-level in your society, I would say. Also, the Peugeot was for maybe until the 2000s even used in Buenos Aires as taxi. So Aldo Barone, who did the AutoArc sedan, really had a lot of experience with practical and aesthetic cars. The chassis was done by Porsche again. So here you see the experience, the relations he used. The engine came by Willys in the US. Willys, of course, famous from the Jeep, Willys Fiat, from Fiat and Simca Vedet. Later on, Autocar produced until 1963 the NSU Prince, this German microcar. You see here on the right, also originally from Germany, but also produced in plants in various countries around the world. As we discussed, there was the idea to build up a Scuderia Argentina, an all-Argentinian racing team located in Argentina using Argentinian race cars and, of course, having Argentinian drivers, something which we saw later in the 50s also from other countries. We had then later in the 70s the all-Argentinian Fittipaldi team, for example, be it an all-British team. And of course, Ferrari as the all Italian team, we had the Porsche team. So again, racing had been an idea of the Argentinian government to show the country's progress. So they wanted to have an all Argentinian racing team, originally with the idea to use the Cisitalia 360 GP, which never worked out as the company never could this car adequately running. But there had been but so then the Argentine Automobile Club, of course, also supported by the government, supported the Scuderia Achille Varsi, officially an Argentinian team, but headquartered in the north of Italy. Achille Varsi was an Italian driver who drove in the late 40s in the races in Argentina, had been strongly supported by Argentinian fans, and Varsi also had good relations to the younger Argentinian driver. He really saw their potential, um, but unfortunately, then Vasi had his fatal accident before he could build up a team using these Argentinian drivers. So Vasi's father invited some of the drivers, Jose Froilan Gonzalez, with whom we just did a special episode, and also Alfredo Pian, to come to Italy. They even could stay at their farmhouse where they had the team. So they really got supported by Vasi's father, and together with Nello Pagani and Italy and Tony Brancana from Switzerland, these drivers participated in the 1951 Formula One season. So here we had the Argentinian team other than planned, because on the one side, the Swedish GP never worked, and on the other side, tragically, Achille Varsi died, but his father had the idea to bring and support Argentinians uh, to Italy. And of course, you may know Argentina has a strong Italian legacy. So you still find a lot of Italian culture in Argentina. So we had always strong connection between these two countries. The Argentine the Scuderia Achille Varsi used Maserati cars, the 4CLT and the 48 4CL, originally pre-World War II cars, but this was a normal practice. Most of the cars, including the dominating Alfa Romeo 158s, had been designed before World War II. Let's come back to our main topic again, the 360 GP. The car turned out to be too sophisticated to handle for a small team, a problem which we saw later in Formula One various times. I remember, for example, in the 70s, 72, the Eifelland car, also great idea, concept, but the team was too small to get it really competitive running. Especially the engine and the gearbox caused continuous problems for the team. For the 1952 season, the FIA and then for the 1952 season, the FIA banned forced induction engines as the 12-cylinder engine used in the 360 GP. That was, of course, the final topic against the car, because now Duccio needed a new car. In fact, he negotiated with Porsche, but due to missing funds budget, this unfortunately never went anywhere. So this was the end of the dream, having this car running in Formula One. As I said, the engine never really became competitive, in opposite to the predicted 300 kilometers per hour as it should run on the paper. The car only reached a top speed of 336 kilometers per hour in race trim. Nevertheless, with this, they could reach in 53 a new record of the South American flying kilometer in Argentina. In the same year, the car in the hands of the driver Clema Bucchi, the one who traveled to Italy and achieved Duccio coming to Argentina, and the other driver, Felice Bonetto, it had its only appearance in a race weekend, and this was in the practice of the Buenos Aires Formula Libre Grand Prix. So we are not speaking about the Argentinian Formula One Grand Prix, but a Grand Prix of the local uh, Voyagerette class, what was called Formula Libre in Argentina. So a smaller local event. We're not speaking about the Formula One event. So here they tested the car, but not used it for the race. Both drivers participated, but again, this using Maseratis. So it appeared once in a race weekend, just in the practice to test a little bit, maybe uh, hoping that somebody would finance the team to further develop the car, but this that did not happen. And due to this, the car up to today stayed unraced. We're jumping in to the year 1963. Porsche traveled to Argentina to participate at the 1,000 kilometers of Buenos Aires sports prototype race. And here, a Porsche driver, Huschke von Hanstein, rediscovered the car. In fact, it was up to sale, and he know the Porsche history. So he connected the dots that this was the Cisitalia 360 GP designed by Porsche, and he bought the car for Porsche to bring it for first time to Germany. Because remember, even if it was designed by Porsche, the designers stayed in Austria. The car was built in Italy. It only left the country for Argentina. It never had been on German ground. The car which von Hanstein brought back was the first one, the Cisitalia, the CIS 001. It was shipped back in the same cage where they also, which are also used for the 718 ASK Spiders, which with them they participated at the race, the 1,000 kilometer of Buenos Aires. Because this was more practical, and also for the customs documentation, it was easier to call it a Porsche car instead of a Cisitalia car. So this was the first time the car was officially labeled Porsche and not Cisitalia. So what they brought home now was the Porsche 360, sorry, the Porsche Type 360. So another great photo, which you can see here from the Museo Cisitalia, a little bit showing the inside of the car, especially the engine in the back of the driver, which already existed in the Auto Union cars before. There had been a prototype from Alfa Romeo, also never raced. But besides this, it would have been the first Formula One car with rear engine in the 1950s. As mentioned, today, if you want to see the car and you are near Stuttgart, you can see it on display at the Porsche Museum. Also, of course, you can see it in the link. There was a second Cis-Italia car, but in the 1960s, it was not existing anymore as a car, only as only some spare parts. So these spare parts from the second Cis-Italia 2016 had been shipped to the UK, and they are now on display at the Donington Motor Museum. So if you are in Donington, you can see the spare parts from the second Cisitalia. Let's just leaving the 360 and speak about Cisitalia's legacy. Interesting, in 1972, the Cisitalia 202, as you see here on the left photo, had been the first car to be introduced into the Museum of Modern Art in New York. So here you can see this car really today. After this, they included also other car. Maybe one of their latest introductions had been the first of the new Fiat 500. So this you can see when you are interested. And in New York, the Cisitalia had been produced only 170 cars. Of course, only for the wealthy uh, ones, as for example, as you see here on the photo, again, with friendly permission by the Museo Cisitalia, you see here Ingrid Bergman and Roberto Rossolini. And on the right, you see the Cisitalia D46 inside Gilles Villeneuve with Luca Montesemolo. The most famous driver for Cisitalia had been Tarsio Nuvolari. That's why they dedicated their open spider, the 202 SMM, to him and officially named it Nuvolari. And I mean, maybe their most beautiful design. And I th- I'm not sure if it's somewhere in a museum, but some of these cars are still existing. So if you're lucky, maybe at a classic racing event or a collector's event, you can see this car, which luckily up to date exists. But that's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed this special episode about the Cis Italia 360 GP and its adventurous story from Italy to Argentina to Germany. If yes, please like the episode. Also, click so that you get automatically informed when we publish our new episodes. So that you can see us on YouTube, YouTube Music, Spotify. If you're driving yourself and just want to listen to the audio podcasts, we are on all your favorite podcast catchers. If you're into music, on Spotify, you find the data-driven Formula One mixtape, including songs directly inspired by Formula One, by race events, and by drivers. So you may enjoy this. With this, stay tuned and until the next time. Bye bye.